All right, so this is. Good morning, Judith. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That'll be.
Talk again, Judith. We're trying to get your volume right.
Okay, how's that?
There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we will come to order at 9:02 a.m. Pacific time.
15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. Can you look at the?
This is not able to be here.
This is not here. Howard will be here shortly. But okay, let's go ahead and get started. We have a pretty packed agenda. So let's see here. We'll take roll. Okay, I am here. Gary?
Here.
Liz is absent. Joe? Here. Jacqueline? Sorry. I am going by the order on the thing here. Alex? Here. Barb is not here. Ellie?
Yes, here.
And Susan is not here. Okay. We do have a quorum though. Okay. Are there any oral communications for items that are not on the agenda?
One hand up.
Who do we have on the Zoom?
It's 650678. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is Caroline Vertonghen. Thanks for taking my question. I brought it up last meeting. Some people, some owners, which I learned today, pulled a permit with Portola Valley, and they're changing the Palmer Trail. I'm very surprised that conservation and the trail committee was not involved with this. Perhaps I'm confused with the process, but I talked to the workers today. They said they pulled a permit, and the permit was accepted by Portola Valley Town. And then after all the work is done, you guys will come in to inspect it. But they've done a lot of damage already, in my opinion. They cut trees and stuff like that. Also a creek behind it. It's been dry, but I hope you guys have a look at it. Thank you. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. We will take a look into that. So it's Palmer Trail. Palmer's pretty short little trail. So
Have the address?
Carolyn, do you have the address by chance?
Well, you can start on my at the end of Palmer Lake, between 95 and 100. There's a trail going down, and then it ends. And I forget now, Cherokee Court. So it's that stretch.
Okay, we will we'll take a look.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for raising
And
it.
I don't know if Howard is involved in this, because I mentioned it last time.
Oh, okay.
So they claim that they need 17 feet. They can relocate the trail as long as it's 17 feet.
Okay. We will follow up on this to check it out. Thank you for raising it.
Thank
Another person, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa Coleman, Conservation Liaison. I was asked to bring up to the Trails Committee a question regarding, it started with the property at 127 Pinion. This is a private property that the owners have done extensive private trail construction on the site. And I was asked to consult with the Trails Committee with respect to the possibility of developing some sort of guidance for individuals who want to create trails on their properties.
So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. I think we could probably work with Howard to follow up on that. I'm sure we have guidance in the trails and paths element already that we could pass on to folks.
What address was that? Sorry.
127 Pinion.
This is a trail that is currently a public, like one of our trails, or this is just new work they're doing? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I sat in on the ASCC preliminary examination of that property. And the real issue is that they did a lot of cutting and filling, which is more of a public works, problem or in public works domain. They didn't really have any questions about, how the tread should be or how to do water bars or, things that are in our purview. But I think the real issue there was grading. And there's some issues with respects to privacy in the neighbors, which I guess we could comment on, but we likely would just say, screen it and go talk to ASCC. But it's most of the work's already been done and it's entirely on their property. It's not public.
I think the concern with the Trails Committee is if there's any runoff, that would be more our purview, wouldn't it? But I don't know about this addressing question.
When it gets onto public property and there's no easement, then we don't really have jurisdiction. However, the town certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there may be some connection. I mean, the closest trails are Ramoso and Pinon Trail. But looking just quickly at the map here, I would be surprised if there's runoff, but it's a good thing for us to check into. Okay, we do have a pretty packed agenda. So we do have meetings from the last 2 regular meetings from August and, well, I guess technically August, I think was a special meeting. We have August minutes and September minutes. They're in the packet. Do we have any corrections from the committee on the minute? And if not, can I get motions to approve each one?
I make a motion to approve.
Which one? We'll start with August. Let's start with August.
I make a motion to approve the August minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think we have unanimous approval. September minutes. Any corrections? Motion to approve?
I make another motion to approve the minutes.
For September, and I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Carrie, are you abstaining? Or? Oh, because you weren't there. Okay, great. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, approve plus 1 abstain. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to Hawthorne's. So we have a draft letter. I actually need to dial into the Zoom, I guess, in order to share. Give me a second to do that. I was just going to share this on Zoom for all to see. We could read it together. Okay, there we go. All right, so here is our draft letter. There's obviously some formatting work that will need to be done. But this is based off of feedback from the our last special meeting, as well as feedback from multiple folks who emailed and who submitted, yeah, I guess just email and our form that the ad hoc committee linked on PV forum. So I'll read it, and then I think the aim here is for the committee to discuss, suggest any improvements, and then we'll figure out exactly what the path forward is, and Judith will, I think, come to you in terms of finalizing it. Howard, did you have something you want to say before we read it? Okay.
I could chime in just quickly right now, and I just wanted to reiterate because it's to the same for the last night we had a special BPTS committee meeting, and so the process and I want to mention this to the council liaison too. We're talking to the town attorney as to what is the process of getting these comments from the committee to MROSD. So those processes are still continuing, and we'll probably have to have a discussion with Judith, our council liaison, also on how it's presented to the council, and talk to the town attorney too. I just wanted to say that up front is to, there's a process here, and we're going to discover how that is after we talk to the town attorney, most likely today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully we can get that process completed by in time to submit it to the Public Access Working Group on October 26th. So at least for today, let's go through this. I am just going to read it out loud just to give everyone a chance to read it. And I figure reading it out loud will give everyone that chance. So in accordance with the MROSD Vision Plan and Measure AA, the Portola Valley Trail Committee is requesting trail improvements as the Hawthorns open space area is developed. The primary goal of our recommendations is to improve and expand on the usage of trails in the MROSD and Portola Valley trail systems, and we look forward to seeing how the design of this wonderful new addition to the MROSD open spaces develops. Please find our thoughts below. Number one, we request that MROSD prioritize developing a trail along Alpine Road into an avenue that is safe and accessible for all those who use the corridor, including equestrians and children riding their bikes to school. We request that development of this trail be prioritized and believe that it could be developed ahead of completion of the rest of the project. We recommend close partnership with the town to complete this work as quickly as possible. We believe there are multiple options to accomplish this goal, but here are our recommendations. A, expand the trail to an appropriate width using a natural surface. B, move the trail further away from the slope down to the road. C, evaluate both the options of consolidation of the existing Alpine trail into the new trail and of creation of a separate trail while leaving the current Alpine trail intact. D, remove the current fence to maintain the open space feel of the area. E, consider adding a split rail type fence along the road edge if the existing trail remains to increase safety along the steep slopes. F, level the trail to any road crossing of the trail such that there is nominal slope down to the road crossing the clear visibility for the safety of all users, particularly children biking to school. Number two, within the property, develop multi-use trails to provide the residents and visitors of Portola Valley a place where they can access Hawthorns open space through a variety of methods, including horseback, bicycle, wheelchair, and on foot. A, explore options for dedicated use, for example, pedestrian-only trails only after multi-use options are finalized. B, include benches along trails to allow for resting. Number three, develop a plan for interconnection with existing trail systems so residents and visitors to Portola Valley can access the Hawthorns and other open space systems without having to drive between different trail systems. A, explore potential use of parking areas in areas of Portola Valley that already exists within proximity to the Hawthorns border, for example, Roberts Market, while focusing parking within the Hawthorns open space to a limited scope, ideally for bicycles and ADA only. We note that the trails element of the Portola Valley general plan recommends against parking at trailheads. B, suggested interconnections include, indicated in blue on an excerpt of the trails and paths element diagram A from the Portola Valley general plan as follows. I, a connection to the Sweet Springs Trail roughly across from the end of Pomponio Street. 2, or II, a connection of Los Trancos Trail where the Hawthorns property meets Los Trancos Road continuing towards Valley Oak Street. Thank you for consideration in expanding the public's access to open spaces in the region. We are available for further consultation and welcome collaboration on trail development. Thoughts from the committee?
I have a first thought, and that is that it was brought to my attention that there's a conservation easement that may impact the ability to do some of the work within the property,
Okay.
as we discussed, as it shows here, like have to do with removing trees or changing the grades, et cetera.
Do you think that that needs to be indicated in our letter?
I was thinking about that the whole time. I think that it should be, I would add it to state that we're aware that such an easement exists and needs to be complied with.
Okay. Great.
So generally speaking, you can have trails inside of conservation easements. So trail improvements are probably not out of the question for that easement. Parking would be in roads, things like that. So just, and we could probably get some verification on that, but I know that we have trails in conservation easements in other parts of town. And then the comment on item 2, where it talks about within the property developing the trails. I don't know, you already referenced the general plan trails map in other parts of the document, but you may want to mention it here too, because in addition to interconnections, that map does kind of show the outline of where the trail should be. It's not a big deal because it's roughly similar to what they're proposing. And I don't think we're talking about adding other trails, but it's just, we may want to mention it in under item 2 that developing trails, multi-use trails to provide residents, in accordance with or aligned with the trails in the town's trails and paths general element.
Can I ask a question? Is the conservation easement in that 9-acre area that the Mid-Penn is reserved by any chance? Is surrounded, or is it in that 9-acre area that's kind of off limits to any development? Just a question.
My understanding is the conservation easement is across the entire property. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly the separate, the 9 acres that have the buildings on it, whether there's something in addition there. But I know that those are being considered for development separately from the rest of it. So if you go just using the map that we have here, this little portion down here, actually kind of where I have the blue line going across, you could obviously bend the blue line around it, is where those buildings are that I think is not being considered. I think that's about 9 acres, is my recollection.
My other question is, how many miles long is this trail system?
So I believe what they have put forth is somewhere between 1 and 1.5 miles.
1.5 miles is like a blip. And we're having this huge discussion, all these cars. And that's like Shady Trail, isn't it?
It's less than Shady Trail. I think any additional trails are a good thing. So and the land kind of dictates what you can develop there. So I don't know that we could really force a longer trail in there or even
Because it's
recommend to do
hilly?
that.
Yeah, so if you look
Yeah,
at
no,
the
no.
slopes here, look at the contour lines, it's actually pretty steep for quite a number of portions. I think that your people who gain access, if you look right here, this is a beautiful vista point for those folks who were able to attend one of the kind of open houses, I guess, that Mid-Penn has had. This is a really nice vista point, but these slopes are pretty steep. There's not a whole lot of additional trail. I think the primary value of this space is the connections you get, and you do get access to this view, and it's a beautiful open, but it is only 79 acres, I believe.
73, something like that, yeah.
I think in comparison, I think Windy Hill is what, 1,100?
The other question is, we want hookups to our trails, to the Patola Valley trails, but how do you reconcile bikes with Patola Valley Ranch and with Las Trancas where bikes aren't allowed? So is that a problem, or I guess?
Well, yeah, bikes are not allowed on in the Coal Mine Ridge trail system. That's true, but I don't actually know along.
On Sweet Springs too, I believe right now, and Craig Saunders is saying that was part of the ranch. But does that still
I
have
think it's
to
just
be?
the only thing to chime in there is that kind of exists everywhere, right? Like
Yeah.
when I go riding in Mid-Penn, you're constantly like, I just went on this trail and bikes were allowed. Now I came to a trailhead and now they're not allowed here. Like that's kind of just a normal, and think about throughout our own town, right? Like there's sections it is, and then you hit a place and if you turn left, it isn't. So that's just on people to,
Well, it is based on safety and sightlines. I mean, there are rules for building trails for multi-use and single use. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. You know, we can be clear on if we do make a connection to Sweet Springs, that be clear about what the trail uses are for Sweet Springs. And similarly with if there is a connection to extend Los Trancos Trail, I think just being clear, I don't think that precludes, I wouldn't say that the increased uses within the property should make it so that we don't provide those connections.
Yeah, and I can foresee the bikes coming down Alpine Road, then cutting into the Hawthorns for a nice little circle up in there, then
Yeah.
continuing on their way down Alpine Road. I mean, that's a very imaginable trail experience. Yeah.
Especially with more folks riding bikes that are sort of, you know, the gravel bike style that are road and off-road, more capable, I guess I'll say.
But you know, to your point, Ellie, the size of the property, I think, really has more of an impact on, you know, the parking, how much parking they should have there. Is it truly a destination where somebody's going to come unpack the car, walk a mile, 0.2, and then get back in the car and leave? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So these interconnections really become important, right? The ranch could get access via Sweet Springs, and they could walk dogs because Sweet Springs allows dogs, and I believe Mid-Penn will allow dogs. So there's a nice little advantage there. Hikers coming from Los Trancos, maybe Arrastradero or even Foothill, to be able to connect back in and get over to Windy Hill parking, huge win there. So there's a lot of really cool trail experiences there, but it doesn't involve just the Hawthorns property. It's all about its relationship to the other trails in the system.
Okay, I just forget that I do have one email that came in this morning about this, actually technically last night. So I was requested that I read this comments. This is from Karen Aspey, who is also on the Zoom, and asked me to share the following at the meeting. And so I'll read. As Portola Valley has nearly 40 miles of trails for public use, I would like the Hawthorns property to offer new and different uses to what our area already offers. Number one, with respect to trail use, I'd like to see several loops versus just one, relevant to the conversation we're just having. I'd like to see multi-use of the trails, hiking, biking, wheelchair access. I would also like one of those loops to be an off-leash dog area similar to Mid-Penn's Pulgus Ridge Preserve. If you haven't visited that area, please do so. As an aside, on the past several years, Portola Valley Parks and Rec has not been able to identify an appropriate site for a dog park due to deed restrictions, conservation, equestrian issues. Regarding horses, my biggest concern is the trails can end up with a lot of horse manure on them, which can make for an unpleasant experience for hikers and bikers. An interpretive trail that caters to school-age children would also be something new and add value. Two, with respect to parking at the trailhead, I strongly feel that the lot inside Hawthorne should be big enough to accommodate all cars. I know there's been a lot of talk about not offering a traditional parking lot there, but there will be cars that then park along Alpine, across the street at Roberts and country offices and or on side streets. This leads to safety issues with folks jaywalking across Alpine and impacting a major evacuation route. Perhaps Hawthorns could have two lots, one always open and the other in reserve for overflow. Three, I'm in favor of following the PV general plan and allowing for interconnectivity of our trail system. Four, I support updating the Alpine Road Trail for multi-use, whether it be two separate trails, one wider, one away from the road. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Any other thoughts on modifications to this letter? Judith?
Right?
Yeah. Hey, Judith, hang on. We have public comment first
No problem.
in the room. That one down low, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Portola Valley Ranch. And I look specifically at the trail connection that you're proposing here. I strongly object to that for a couple reasons. One is it's going to bring parking issues onto Portola Valley Ranch, as you see at Alpine and Willowbrook, where people go in the back way to Windy Hill. where you see it on Alpine Road before the gates are open in the morning to the Windy Hill Open Preserve. So I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that particular point that you made up. There are other access points, mainly from Alpine Road. I think the trail that you propose right up that hill, it will basically sort of be a scar, right? It basically goes right up the hill, which to connect to their round trail.
Mhm.
And I look right at that trail,
Mhm.
and it's going to add a lot of people to the area. So I think you should get some more feedback from people in Portola Valley Ranch. I missed your last meeting. I was told about it, and that's why I'm here.
Mhm.
But that's my feedback.
No, we appreciate it. This, just for folks who are new to this process, the map that we have here with the dashed lines is actually part of the trails and paths element of the town general plan. I'm not sure exactly when it was created. It actually predates our current process. And so these are trail connections that are in our plan and that our committee is recommending, in part because of the guidance in the plan to preference connections, interconnections to trail systems, and as well as the layout that was put forth before much of this area was developed. Regarding parking in the ranch, yeah.
That property from Pompeo down to Sweet Springs
Mhm.
is a private trail, and it's on private property at Portola Valley Ranch. So there are signs up there that this is a private trail as well. So
Yeah, I'm aware of those signs. I believe there is an easement from the end of Pomponio to the Sweet Springs Trail. Again, everyone will make sure that actually exists before anything is done. But we do have evidence that easement does exist. The other issue regarding parking in the ranch, I live in the ranch, so I'm concerned about parking as well. We do not have, you would think that we would have a problem at the Portola Valley Ranch house with the connection there to the Coal Mine Ridge Preserve, but we do not. That does not appear to be a problem. We are, it's the earthquake shake alert. I believe that this is a drill. I don't think
Shake
this
alert.
is, I think this is the great shakeout
Yeah,
that is just
great
happening.
shakeout.
So apologies for the interruption there.
Feeling shaking.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that. But anyway, getting back to that, I don't think we have that problem. I think the good news about this particular connection is that it's far up the hill, and people typically do not like to park at the bottom of hills and then walk up them to gain access to places. So I think that that's a insulating factor from this issue. I think the other thing is we do just want to make sure that like the issues with Windy Hill, that the town addresses them as they come up. I think the town has done a nice job of moving folks off of the road at Windy Hill. It's much better than it certainly was, I would say, a couple of years ago. So, but thank you for your comments. I think that we definitely appreciate the multiple perspectives. I know that there are other folks who will disagree with the map that we have, but I think as the Trails Committee, as the stewards of the Trails and Paths element of the general plan, I feel confident in this approach. Jacqueline.
The only other thing I was going to say, back where we talk about the Alpine Trail, even though it's somewhat self-explanatory, I'm not sure that we mentioned the importance of it having like a clear connection on the two sides with our town Alpine Trail, right?
Okay.
Just so that's kind of a smooth, I mean, I think they know that, but it doesn't hurt to restate the importance of that appearing like a continuous trail.
Okay.
Would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a great point because it kind of depends on how the construction gets implemented, right? If we're able to keep Alpine Trail entirely in the road right away, then we don't really need it. But if two trails diverge, they better come back together again, right? So
want it to feel
I don't know how we
disconnected.
would articulate that to them, Fred, but yeah, I mean, there's two options there. right?
Yeah. Judith,
I had one question on one B here. And I think you should clarify that because I read it first as suggesting that the trail be moved down to the road. And I think what you're saying is you actually want to move it into the property more so it's farther away from the slope. So just clarify that if I interpret that correctly.
yes, we are intending it to move into the property.
Okay.
We'll make that clear. We probably should use some cardinal directions.
Yeah, and Judith, that is a great question because again, if we're able to keep the trail entirely in the road right away, widen it so it become multi-use, adjust the fencing so that we move Mid-Penn's fencing deeper into their property. We perhaps put up a split rail across from Nat Horse and across from Roberts where the steep angles are. Then it doesn't move into the property as much. It stays kind of where it is. We don't know if it can be built that way. Let's just be real honest here. So that would be one option. Another option would be that, hey, we just have to move it further into their property. And then that segues to what we just talked about, whether it's the trail itself is just moved or we create two trails. We leave Alpine Trail where it is for walkers, and then we have a bike and a equestrian trail that goes into their property and then converges back into Alpine down towards Los Trancos. So we really can't make that call until we know how they can build the trail.
Yeah, I think that the making the point though, that clarifying here that our desire is to move it away from the slope to improve safety. It's a good call up.
And the only, sorry.
Go ahead, Judith.
Yeah, only one other point, and then I'll let you continue your discussion on F. Level the trail at any road crossing so there's nominal slope. I get the concept, but where does that apply on the map? Because
yeah, so
I'm
the
not aware. Yeah.
so there's the existing driveway, I guess I should say. Maybe we should call these driveways rather than road crossings. There's the existing driveway that goes into, actually it's right here, if you can see where, and right now, the current Alpine Trail slopes down, 2 or 3 feet down to the driveway and then comes back up. And so the idea would be to put in, if you're going to move that trail in further into the property, you ought to be able to make it so it's a much smoother transition across that driveway, is the idea.
Okay. Okay, I'm 3-dimensionally challenged, so I'll just put my concern out there and then let you figure out if it's applicable. Because the more you dive down, like if you're saying erode the steepness and have the actual driveway pretty flat, then you're increasing steepness elsewhere to get to that point, maybe reducing the visibility. So if you've thought about that and think it's all workable and the way you've got it, that's great. It's just a question that occurs to me.
Yeah, I think the recommendation should actually improve visibility for anyone on the driveway. The trail would be elevated. The most extreme version of this, which I don't think we're advocating, would be like a speed bump. Like the trail crosses at a speed bump across the driveway, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Judith, we've done this before. So if you look at how Alpine Trail is modified by Corte Madera, where they created their emergency entrance off of Alpine Road, we had to realign the trail. So as it came into the driveway, the kids were not accelerating literally into the driveway or having to really struggle up the other side of the driveway to get out of the way of a car, for example. So the idea is just grade it so it's very slight down to the road, a flat crossing. The trail would cross flat across the road, and then a very slight upwards grade to get back to the trail.
Thank you. That example is really helpful. Thanks.
Teresa?
I had a question. I was trying to find the conservation easement and I actually could not find the document, but what I did find was a summary document that included what the highlights of the conservation easement were and how they would affect certain development aspects to Hawthorns. One of the things that I thought I understood from that was no additional surfacing other than natural dirt type surfacing, and how that would relate to some of the trail improvements you're talking about. I'm not sure has been addressed. Just wanted to raise that as a question. Am I interpreting that correctly? That you can't do like asphalt or gravel or et cetera on the actual trails themselves as they're developed in the property.
I don't know that anyone knows that, but I think we'll look into that. I mean, we do have on A here, a natural surface. So I'll potentially reference the conservation. So one other thing I actually just wanted to say, because I do recognize that we are making recommendations that, you know, not everyone will agree with. And there is a public comment form for the public access working group where folks can submit their individual comments. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that they have those opportunities as well, even though we may not agree with the public comments here. Okay, we've got a few hands up. So I'm going to go through them. Karen Vatra, you are up first.
Hi, I'm a member of the POG, so I kind of know a lot of the background here, and I just wanted to clarify the conservation easement a little bit. And the easiest way to think about this property is that there are 3 zones. There's the small historic district, there's just sort of the general thing, and then there's sort of a more restricted area that has more restriction on surfaces and has to be natural. But for trails, I don't think it's a big concern if you just want a simple dirt trail, and that could be basically anywhere on the property. It's more about parking and things like that. So I thought that might be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Karen Askey, you are up next.
Hi, thanks. And thanks for reading my letter, Fred. First of all, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job in this document. I'm really impressed, and thank you very much. And I have some minor comments. Probably the biggest one is, can you go to the parking recommendation again, please? I think it's down
Right there.
number 4, maybe.
It's 3A.
Where so if I understand this correctly, you're actually asking that people would park across Alpine Road?
We're asking for exploring the use of existing areas along Hawthorns. We are not advocating the parking along Alpine Road because I believe any parking along Alpine Road would either be in the bike lane or would cover our trail, and we are certainly not in favor of parking across the trail. I believe it's actually against the town ordinance to park across the trail. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I meant across Alpine Road.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so
Yep.
I, as you know, and I put it in my letter, I do have a concern about that and the number of pedestrians that may cross Alpine Road at a point that isn't necessarily the actual crosswalk, as well as that being a choke point in our evacuation plan. So I just I personally would love to see all the parking within the site if possible, versus having people parking across the street and taking up parking for other uses. And then just very small comments. There's a section where you talk about the Alpine Trail and kids biking to school. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to put walking, because most of them actually walk, biking and walking. I don't remember what.
Yeah, We are not attempting to be exhaustive in.
Oh, okay,
this-
perfect.
This particular
Okay.
statement. We mainly wanted to reference the tension that currently exists, I think, between equestrian use and bike use along the existing Alpine Trail. And so we wanted to clarify that, but we could potentially expand and be sort of we could be exhaustive in terms of what we mean for use here.
Well, I was just thinking there are more pedestrians than bikers, kids walking to school. So that was just a thought there, very small. And then again, and this is based on my letter, is I'd love to hear the committee's thoughts on an area or a loop that is for dogs off leash.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of, I'll give my view on that and welcome others. I think the challenge with including the dogs off leash is that, well, I'll take a step back. I think we've talked about the small size of this property really does not lend itself to being a destination into or unto itself for use. It's a great addition to the existing network that we have. It builds some connections and improves the overall network. I think it would be a general challenge for the area if this property, the development of this property, encourages more cars into the area. I think even if you were to put parking, for example, they will never create enough parking for the demand. I mean, we see that every weekend at both entrances to Windy Hill. You put a parking lot there, you invite cars. I think parking lots invite cars. If you don't have parking lots, people find other ways to get to a place, either by bike or foot. And with the advent of e-bikes, you know, it's more and more increasingly accessible for people to get to these places. That said, I think the addition of a dog park would invite people from all over the region to bring dogs off leash here, because there, you know, aren't as many off leash dog parks as folks would like. And so my big concern about having an off leash area is that you would just have a massive influx of vehicle traffic with people bringing their dogs off leash. So that's my general opposition to having an off leash dog park. Gary?
Yeah. So
Thank you, Fred.
I just want to, can I just make a comment about
Sure.
Pocus Ridge if you haven't been there? It's a larger area completely, but you have to walk about 4/10 of a mile to get to a trail that's off leash for dogs. And on a Tuesday afternoon, I was there yesterday, I ran into just 3 other people that were taking their dogs there, and the parking lot was very empty. So just, we have different ends, and I just wanted to share that. And I'm done. Thank you.
Yep. No, I think Pocus Ridge is a beautiful property and it has a lot of different features. It's not directly in the center of so much sort of development already that it lends itself as being not creating some of the same challenges. But Gary, go ahead.
Thank you, Fred. Karen, a couple replies to your questions. You know, in terms of parking, I think, and Fred put this very well, so I won't elaborate, but given the size of this property, common sense tells you that it's just not going to be a good destination for somebody to hop in the car with their kids, go there, unpack, walk a loop that's 1.2 miles and get back in the car and leave. It maybe can be considered overflow parking for Windy Hill, but we don't want it to be that. No matter how much parking you put there, if you put parking there, it will overflow and then people will go park across the street. You could have 2 spots, you could have 20 spots, you have 200 spots. It will still fill up and it will still overflow and go across the street. So we have to be prepared for that. And I think if we tow a few people now and again, then they'll get the idea not to park there. So we have to deal with that problem. And we shouldn't be allowing people to cross the streets anywhere outside of a crosswalk in Alpine Road. So I hope we can get that message out there that it's just not a good destination location for this. And that's why the interconnections are so important. In terms of dogs, you know, our purview is the trail. When you get off the trail, it's outside of our purview. We will never let dogs off leash on a trail in this town because we allow equestrians, we allow kids, we allow, you know, it's just, it's fraught with danger. However, if Mid-Penn decided to put a dog park, an off-leash dog park on their property, that's completely outside of our purview. They want to do it, fine, just keep the dogs inside of the park, whatever, you know. So I apologize, we can't really offer you a lot of support, you know, for those ideas. But what we can say absolutely is we cannot have dogs off leash on any trail that allows equestrians and or kids, particularly kids on bikes. Does that help clarify things a little bit?
Yeah, it does. And the Mid-Penn is a trail. So it's not a big dog park or anything like that. It's just a place to walk your dog. But I understand. I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah,
Thank
now
you.
dogs on leash, I think we're very supportive of. So I don't think I've heard anybody say that that's not a good idea for Mid-Penn trails.
But
So
I
on
think
leash
that
should be just fine.
Pulgus Ridge is the only Mid-Penn preserve that's open to dogs. And I think it was deliberately done because it's sort of a bit more isolated. We don't have a lot of people on those trails.
Yeah. Jacqueline, and then we do have a couple other folks. Go ahead.
Okay, the only other thing I was going to mention on the parking, I was at the last Hawthorne's meeting, and I mean, no matter what, I think it's important we're making our comment that we don't want it visible, whatever they do, and the mentioning at the trailhead. But Mid-Penn spoke about the fact, I mean, they have a whole team, every single preserve they do, they have a study that's, you know, given the size of the trail, given the size of the land, this is how many spots. I mean, they've had to deal with this a lot. So I think I have trust in them coming up with the right quantity of spaces, given the size of the preserve and location, because this is research they're constantly doing. So I don't feel we need to give too much feedback around like size of, and it's more about visibility concerns, things like that. But, you know, they do have a process, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got 650-678-7562. I think this is Karen. Karen Vertonghen, is that you? Carolyn Vertonghen?
Thank you so much. I was on mute. I apologize. Thank you so much. You made so much progress. BPTS is a little behind, but I hope you will. I really concur with everything the residents said about parking and decreasing traffic. It's a big concern. This is something we mentioned yesterday. BPTS wants all the parking inside the property and not visible from the street. We're very concerned. We don't want to overwhelm alpine corridors in a corridor. So that's why we suggested to have even the entrance at Los Trancas open so we can make the balance. We're really concerned. So then the two other access points, so you have 3 access points on Alpine. We would like to encourage alternative transportation, meaning this is, you know, used, that 2 of them are used for interconnecting the trails by foot, by horse, perhaps by bike. This is important. This is our general plan. This was our intention. And eliminate the influx that we're getting into town. And we keep on reminding people Windy Hill is still a disaster. And I feel for the people on Willowbrook. They have tried to mitigate this issue. It's not, and the town has only done a little, and they simply have given up and they live with it. But it's not fair, because if we continue this, we will have problems at Nathorst and people will park there. So this should not be a destination bringing in a lot of cars. And so hopefully we can achieve that. It's better to prevent than make a mitigation efforts afterwards. And I think that was the consensus we had yesterday. But congratulations on your letter. I think we will, and process, we will follow your example. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Betsy.
Yes, thank you, Fred. So Betsy Morgan Thaler here, and I am serving with Fred, and Karen Askey is on the Town Ad Hoc Hawthorne's Committee. And I did share with the members of that committee responses that I received from Mid-Penn, including the conservation easement. And if any members of present today would like a copy of the original conservation easement, which is quite clarifying. And I wanted the copy of it so that I could understand better what the basis of MidPenn's interpretations were. I found it valuable. I wanted to make then two other points, well, preliminary to that, to compliment you on putting, pen to paper. You've written a powerful letter, and I highly commend you for it. You're quite the poster child for this committee. And so two places of response that I have. One, Ellie mentioned earlier the small size of the trail, and I thought I believe it was Ellie who made the analogy to Shady Trail's length, which I thought a good analogy, a strong one. To looking at the possibility that we might urge or push MidPenn to consider increasing the size of their proposed trail. I wanted to mention that for all of those who were able to attend the August 26th site meeting, there is an existing trail come driveway that extends from the top of the preserve all the way down to 800 Los Trancos. It is steeper than perhaps the rest of the trail, but not impassable at all, not as steep as some of our own town trails for sure. So it's quite passable, it exists, and it could be put into use quite easily. Again, all the site visitors on the 26th were able to walk it both directions. I would like to further suggest that this committee advocate incorporating in the portion of the 13 acres. So it is 13 acres, that's the historic district. And MidPenn will take these 13 acres under their consideration, the board will, in a matter of months. So it does not lag far behind this process. However, they do not intend to form another POG, another working group to look at it. So our input right now might be highly valuable. 13 acres is considerable, and the largest share of that is flat. Yes, there is a steep portions, but there is the flattest portion of the entire preserve is down there. So moving then to the second point, your proposed parking program. I can follow your thinking. And as I was thinking of analogies of my own, it felt to me a bit like Russian roulette. And I'll give you my thinking, which is really taking a perspective that isn't a today perspective, but it is, we're at the front end of RENA 6 now, and I'm forecasting, 14, 15 years ahead when we're at the tail end of RENA 7. And from that perspective, the demands for open space access is going to do nothing but grow. There will be our own community's growth, yes, but there will be the surrounding community's growth. And I foresee a lot more pressure to use this preserve than I'm hearing from your committee today. So I go back to the Russian roulette. I'm concerned that we may get away with this in the short term, but in the longer term, it's a challenging game. And if you look over at Windy Hill Overflow Parking, we will be beset with struggling to put up signs across towns, and it will cost the town more money. So thank you for listening to my concerns. And again, my terrific applause for the energy that you put into this.
Thank you, Betsy. I do think it potentially is worth us also, I think one of the issues with access is the lack of public transportation options. We haven't mentioned that in here, but I think maybe that's also worth mentioning, because that is the alternative way to think about the future, is to be advocating for more public transportation. Because if we view the future as just more cars, then what's the point of the open space? So, but it's a point well taken to really consider the future. Thank you for that. Okay, we're about,
Yeah,
Gary, go
just to
ahead.
add to that, maybe we could suggest a shuttle between Windy Hill and the property right away. That could be one solution. And then we also talked about, I don't know if Mid-Penn can implement this, but a reservation system. Let's say they put 15 spots at the Hawthorns. Obviously, they're concerned that elderly or folks with special needs may need to drive there. And so I believe they want to accommodate that. A reservation system could help that. And to completely back up, remember, our biggest concern about cars was that they would be turning into the Hawthorns and crossing a safe routes to school trail. So we're not so much deep in the business of how many cars should be there. And Mid-Penn has a formula. You know, I'm with Jacqueline. I'm sure their formula is well thought out. But what we really want to try to minimize is the number of cars turning off of Alpine and crossing that safe routes to school trail.
Yep.
You can imagine if people were pulling in there, they find the parking lot is full and they come right back out. That's 2 times crossing a safe route to school for really no good reason.
Yep.
Right. So I hope people, when they think about parking from our perspective, think that it's really a safety issue for the safe routes to school trail. And then secondary, it's common sense issues that this property is just not large enough to be a destination.
May I respond to one thing that you just said, Gary? Sorry, through the chair.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Just one point about safe routes to school that ties in with these remarks, which is the access over at 800 Los Trancos, which at this moment in time, Mid-Penn is not interested in pursuing access over in that direction. I suspect in 15 years will be far safer than than any access off Alpine Road due to, I hear your future about a carless future, though I suspect that we may have clean cars. We may have clean cars, but we will still have plenty of them on Alpine Road. Los Trancos is far less heavily traveled, and I think with minimal line of sight concessions could be made far the safer. So thank you for letting me add that on.
Yep, that's a
Can I just
good
make
point.
one comment? Ellie Ferrari here. I mentioned before with all the traffic on Windy Hill, parking on Alpine Road, and there's some lovely town signs saying, please park at the town center. There's parking there. I go by the town center, lots of spaces, and nobody's parking there because they prefer to park on Alpine Road and just walk a few steps into the Windy Hill Preserve. So
That's a fair point. Okay, Howard, Judith, should we have a vote in terms of how we should proceed with this, or should we just defer to the town process on where we go with this letter?
Yeah, I mean, Howard, to me, what we need to come out of this is a document that represents the views of the Trails and Paths Committee. And it needs to be integrated into the town process. So I don't know if it needs to be a formal approval, because what it's doing is getting it approved by the committee to move into a town process for communicating around these issues with Mid-Penn. That's how I look at it, but I'm curious what you would say.
Thank you, Judith. I think the process so far, I believe, in checking with the town attorney is, I think the Trails Committee should go through the council liaison. The council liaison, I think, should mention it to the council meeting, or you could prepare a memo for report at a future council meeting. It could be next week's. So I think that is the process. And I know that BPTS, I mean, last night, that's what we talked about, the same exact thing, that the council liaison there is going to the council also.
Okay. My biggest concern is we have a meeting today. We have the opportunity to do a vote if we need to do a vote. I don't want to miss that opportunity. So if we need to do a vote.
Yeah, I mean, Howard, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to float something with Howard, which is, can this body approve it as the Trails and Paths views on, the Trails and Paths aspects of the Hawthorns property? and approve it for submission to the town council for next steps. I mean, I think if we need, because they can't approve it, period, as the town's viewpoint, because it's going to be one of several viewpoints. And I certainly will bring it, I'm more than happy to put a cover note and bring it to the council. I think time permits me to do that today, if it is approved. And so I would recommend that they approve it for submission for consideration by the town council, if you agree with that, Howard.
Yes, I do.
And
Okay.
through the chair, Judith, in the past, whenever we made a recommendation, that was considered an action by the committee. So we do have to take a vote and go on record with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So our action is the recommendation. It's not an approval of this document going to it's the recommendation to the council. So if
Perfect.
we're ready, motion.
We've got one hand up. We'll
Okay.
take that and then we'll do the motion. Karen.
Hi, yeah, thanks. The ad hoc committee was planning to share comments in writing for the POG meeting on October 26th, so that POG members would have an understanding of some of preferences and concerns, certainly the ones where there's consensus. So I'm now hearing that perhaps we can't do that, and I just want clarification on that, because
Yeah.
each
Hey,
committee
Karen,
has.
Can I recommend that we, since that's not a Trails and Paths Committee specific issue, that we follow up on email, you follow up on email with Howard and Judith. Because we're short on time here. And I'm not sure that this is the right forum to settle that.
Okay, I'll send an email to Howard and Judith right
Okay.
now and ask them what we do with the ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Howard, go ahead.
Thank you, if I can. So I got a call from MROSD yesterday, one of the planners, and because we were concerned about process. And I want, if I can take a minute just to read some of the bullet points.
Sure.
From that, because this is just, they really got it last night. And this is just, once again, it's just helpful information that the committee should know about. Because we were concerned about this meeting on the 26th. And even though we should follow this and take our steps to get the comments into the council liaison and to the council, they did indicate that this is just the first of meetings. So Gally Basson, a planner 3 from Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space, indicated to me, the work MidPen has completed so far includes establishing the vision and goals for the property and collecting information on existing conditions and constraints. MidPen is just getting started with the detailed discussions about the future use and management of the Hawthorns area. MidPen appreciates the input on the Hawthorns area plan, and right now is an appropriate time to provide input. The October 26th Public Access Working Group meeting is not the only opportunity to provide input and feedback. MidPen's planning process includes 2 to 4 additional Public Access Working Group meetings after October 27th to discuss the future uses of the property. The recommendation that the Public Access Working Group makes will be forwarded to MidPen's Park and Natural Resources Committee, PNR. MidPen staff will present the Public Access Working Group's recommendation to the Town Ad Hoc Committee. There will likely be an additional PNR meeting and Town Ad Hoc Committee meeting at this stage. MidPen staff will present the PNR recommendation to their board of directors, and the board will make a decision for the future use and management plan for the Hawthorns area. Next, once the board has made a decision, MidPen will prepare plans and submit permits to the town, which will start the town's planning process. And lastly, MidPen has updated the project page to include information about the overall planning process to clarify the purpose of the Public Access Working Group meetings. And I can forward the link to you, but it's open to the general population. So I just wanted to broadcast that because there were some concerns about process and concerns about, oh, is this the last time that the town gets, the committees can can provide input. And I do want to focus on, there is 2 phases. There's this phase of the Public Access Working Group. Then it comes to the town for review too. And I don't want to speak completely for planning department, but typically that comes through the town staff and gets pushed out to the committees also. So there's 2 reviews. And some of the things that typically, Public Works will review is, once again, I want to mention lessons learned from Windy Hill, the parking situation, effects to the scenic corridors, effects to our residents as on concerning parking and other traffic on Alpine, Nathorst, Hillbrook, and Horseshoe Bend. And I want to lastly mention, the somewhat coordination with the BPTS at some level, because they're going to generate their own letter too. So this is just helpful information I wanted to provide the committee. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Howard.
If I could just to wrap it up, because I'm the one who's taking the minutes here. So if I can just have some clarity on the next step. So we're about to vote on this. All right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Gary's going to put forth a motion.
Okay, why don't I save my question until after that?
Okay.
I move that the Trails and Paths Committee approve the recommendations as memorialized in the document in front of us here today and send this document on to the town council for consideration.
Do you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. I think we're unanimous on that.
So my only quick question then is, so this town council meeting is when?
Next
I believe
week.
Next week. Next Wednesday, is that right, Judith?
Correct.
25th.
Okay, and they're meeting, as we know, on the 26th. And I understand to Howard's point that this is the first of many, but if I could just emphasize as someone who was at the meeting, I know that they're really hoping for this to be sent by that meeting, just so it can help them form the initial. So as long as we're all in agreement that that is still the goal, and that I guess, so will you be following up? Will Fred, hearing from Judith and Howard on the night of the 25th as to the result of?
Yes, I mean, I will be following up to do everything we can to get this information in to that meeting.
So let me make a comment on process here. I have to check on what's on the agenda next week. I certainly will want the town council at a minimum to understand that this document exists, have a look at it. But I don't know, I have to check with the town attorney whether we need to do more, or whether this can be submitted kind of as a part of a whole set of comments, or whether the town council needs to approve it. But I'm not sure of the exact action that the town council will take next week because of that. So I'll follow up today, but I don't want people to necessarily plan on this being a discussion and approval point for the town council, because I just don't have that information right now. I'll get it for you.
Okay. Thank you. I think that your general point though, Jacqueline, is like, let's do everything that we can to make sure that our perspective gets into this particular meeting, despite the fact that there are multiple meetings in this part of the process. There is the planning process. More we can do to get our perspective in earlier, the better. The general point.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's okay for somebody on the Trails and Paths Committee to just attend the meeting on the 26th and read the recommendations.
Yeah, maybe we can, that could be sort of our fallback alternative potentially that we can explore. I will be attending the meeting, so I'd be happy.
Yeah, I mean, because gets read right into the record. I know we would like to get them the information ahead of time to get into their agenda packet and so on and so forth.
I don't
Doesn't-
actually believe we'll be able to get into the agenda packet based on feedback from to the ad hoc working group.
Okay, great.
So I think.
So then
that's-
Judith, yeah, if we could just be prepared to have somebody read it into the record on the 26th, I think that should accomplish what we want to get done. Jacqueline, I think, yeah.
I will read more slowly. Yes.
Can't hear as fast.
Sorry. I've been given that feedback before, believe it or not. Okay. I think we're going to close out on the Hawthorns, item B. We're going to move on to item C here, the new map. So as many folks know, we have been working on updating the existing map for quite some time now. We have 2 copies. Again, a major thank you from the committee to Dave Evans, a resident in town who has done all of the work to produce the graphic that you have in the packet. We have one graphic here that is a color version and then another version that is black and white. And I think what we want to do today is just have a discussion among the committee of thoughts for how to move forward. A couple things that I'll note just right off the top. There's a couple of outstanding issues that we've got to figure out. The first one is we likely need to remove Alpine Canyon Trail at this moment because it is not actually accessible from where it connects with Cervantes Trail. We believe that's not a permanent change. There's some efforts to reopen that. It's a Westridge Trail for folks who are following along. So that's one thing that we'll remove. And then the other item here is we have conflicting information on the Valley Oak path. We have recent information that suggests that that path ought to be open for bicycles. However, there is a sign about 0.1 miles east of the connection to the Black Oak Trail that suggests that bikes are not allowed on Valley Oak. So we need to reconcile the fact that that sign exists with the documentation that we have there. So those are 2 items I know that we need to address. I'll open it up to the floor for comments from the committee on the map.
Another item is Salsal Trail, where we have 3 parcels that may not have valid easements across them. I don't know if it's the right time to get into this, but we've talked to 2 of them who are fully supportive of the trail, 2 of the residents, who they have talked to the 3rd and have relayed to us that they're supportive of it. And given that, this is going to be a process that involves a surveyor, perhaps a title company or somebody who can record the new easements. I'm changing my thinking on this. I was pretty sold on the fact that we shouldn't include it because that's a pretty serious issue. But we're not likely to be able to fix this anytime soon. And the trail is the way the trail is. We've got buy-in from the residents that live there. I guess I would defer maybe to Howard and to Judith now, but I would withdraw my request that we remove that from the map at this point, giving those special sets of circumstances. When the resolution goes in front of the council, we probably need to make a note on there because I want the council to know what they're approving. But I don't foresee that we're going to get this finished anytime soon, given the budget situation, given just priorities, given how long it takes to do something like this. So we do need to note it, but I would not be opposed to keeping it on the map showing multi-use.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Any other comments from the committee on the map?
Ellie Ferrari here. I just have a few comments. Well, I think it's wonderful. I think Dave did a very professional job. It does remind me of an English ordnance map. And I think it's not easy to decipher the trails. It might be appropriate for some facilities such as in Tahoe, where we have lots of contours and we have lots of elevations, but is it necessary to have a topographical rendering for our little town? Other jurisdictions have trail maps that are much clearer. They show elevations, but they don't show all the different colors of the greenery and the brown for mountainous. So I also think that the trail names need to be bigger and in bold. Now, maybe lots of people will just pull it up on their iPhones, but when you're looking at the map, I mean, I find it hard to decipher the trails. If you look at our primitive little town trail maps, they're much easy to look at. They show the trails. There are other questions as well. I don't know, maybe somebody else might have brought them up. Fred, do you have a list of items that Susan Go was concerned with?
I read Susan's items in. Let me just make sure I got them. She has that we need to remove the Alpine Trail. And she had given some feedback on dogs on leash, and I think we've incorporated that. The dogs on leash says San Mateo County requires dogs on leash on all public trails. Actually, I think we need to, is that the updated language? I think that's the updated language, right?
It's been updated.
Yeah, okay. Those are the two that I had from Susan. One thing, Ellie, so there's two versions. As your comments, so I take your comments to be mostly about the version that has all the colors, but on the
Right.
back of there's a black and white version as well. And I think the idea would be that we would offer both for this purpose. I didn't realize that was going to be so upfront.
Don't you find that the lettering for the trails is kind of small and hard to see?
Sure, I'm comparing it to the existing one though, and I think that size of the font is roughly the same. But I don't know. It's good feedback. We'll ask Dave if there's a way to make them
And they're,
pop or stand out more.
okay.
There's the good thing is there's so many trails in town that there's a lot of info
Right.
on here.
The other item is Farm Road. Those are Woodside trails.
Mhm.
I don't know, should we be,
I mean, we have Westridge trails on here. So I think
those are town trails, yeah. Okay, next question is, they have something here called Picker Trail. I mean,
yes.
is that something new? Isn't that a Westridge trail? Did they name it?
I believe Mary Hufty told us that as the name. I believe it is a
okay.
Westridge Trail. That is
Okay.
the trail.
It's
I
off
think it's on her.
Hidden Valley.
It's on her property. I think. So I think we're going to defer to her.
And also there's a Solano shortcut off Mapache, off Naranja.
Uh-huh.
Is that also, it's a Westridge trail, I believe. Is it also something that's Westridge has named? Because that seemed new to me.
We did. I know that we have worked with Mary on the names. I don't know
Okay.
definitively whether that is the right name.
And off Goya Trail, there's a mine trail that's new to me, but maybe that's another,
I think that's another Westridge
okay.
one. I mean, the trail is there. It connects.
And on the Bolivar Trail, I think they've got it on the map as Alamos Bolivar. It should be the other way around, Bolivar Alamos. Because when you come to it, the first area you come to, it is Bolivar, then you go on to Alamos. So anyway, that's just a small thing.
From Alpine Road, there's Alamos.
Right, right. So it should be Alamos on that end. See, they've got it Alamos Bolivar. It should be Bolivar Alamos.
Yeah, or you could add Boulevard Drive on there and then it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you like what they've said about the Westridge trails? Please note their natural surface, rocky, uneven, steep, and subject to unexpected hazards.
Yeah. So one thing I will say just about this is we have consulted with a lot of different entities on this. And so, for better or worse, this is the sort of result of all of that consultation. So the Westridge Trails language here
Is that
has been
appropriate?
approved by WASC.
Westridge?
Yeah, by WASC.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
Sort of-
and just to clarify, not even approved, but required.
Required,
Like it's
yes,
not,
thank you.
it's not like we made that up. So anything, and same with all the names and everything about
Or
any
maybe
Westridge
it's for-
Trail.
Maybe it's for legal issues, or on the other hand, it could keep people away, and who knows what the motive is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know that Liz
Okay.
consulted a lot with, and like all that's been both required and approved from the
Okay,
Westridge
I
side of
just,
things.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Just bringing it up.
I mean, interrupt Ellie, but so the Alpine Canyon Trail is a Westridge Trail.
Yes.
And it's temporarily blocked off, but, you know, all the discussions I've had with WASC is that the trail exists, the easements exists, it's a valid trail. Because Westridge trails do not have to meet the town trail standards, I'm concerned that, one, it's not even in our purview to take the trail off. We should ask Westridge what they want to do with it, because it's
Fair
not our,
point.
not our trail. I respect Susan's concerns because it is a a work in progress. Some parts are actually beautiful as you get down to the bottom, but up at the top, there's still some issues there. So I would just defer to Westridge on that. My concern is if that we take the trail off the map, then it kind of makes the Stanford project stuff a little more difficult,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
Because we really do want to connect into that. And I've talked with Susan about this, and I think we understand each other. So maybe we can somehow take this out of our hands, put it in the Westridge's hands, and let them make the decision so that we don't have to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We can consult with Westridge on that to finalize that
Right.
portion of it. Great recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the map?
Let me make just a quick comment. I've been using the old map for years, and it's easy for me to use. I'm a map person myself, and I like making things improve. I like improving things. The problem that I have with this is that when I look at it, I see all the names, and it turns out when you focus, you realize that, oh, these are almost all trail names, but the road names don't stand out to me, and it's hard to find the roads. If there's some way of making the roads clear, identified, so that I can know where we're talking about. It says a trail. Is that off Cervantes? Is that on the Cervantes Road, or is that a separate trail by itself on the back roads?
Yeah,
It's difficult.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that is one of the elements that we have tried to improve over the existing map. If you go on the existing map, there are no road names, and so there's a few on here. Sassel Drive, Golden Oak, Sioux Way, what you might care about. And Westridge, is noted kind of at the very beginning of where it connects to Portola Road. But yeah, I think that's another thing that we could explore, is just having more kind of obvious designations of what the actual roads are as well.
And I think the only tricky thing there, because we definitely have had conversations
Yeah.
back and forth about this, but on one hand, if you make the road names more obvious, then I think there's also the argument then that can cause confusion of, so is that a road? Is that a trail? So I think the goal was to have it purposely a little hidden so that this really is a trail map, right? And then I remember asking about that too, saying, oh, we only have some road names mentioned. And again, the goal there was to highlight. So if you feel that there's one or two missing, but I think the goal was just to give you your bearings, but not make this so all-inclusive or it just gets too busy.
And also many of the trails are just named after the road they go along, which you kind of figure out after you've used it a bit. So as a first-time user, it might be a little confusing, but eventually, if you come back or if you live here, you'll be like, oh, I know what road that is because I drive on it. So.
Yeah, I do think we could maybe provide a couple more labels to help orient folks. Is probably the thing that we could explore. Because yeah, I don't think we can label them all. We'll make the map too busy, but I do think it's a good point that there are portions where it is difficult to orient oneself, particularly if you don't know that the trails aren't just named after the road.
Joe, maybe if you look at it some more and you have like some specific, if there are specific, that might be helpful for us. If there's specific things that you feel could be
Yeah, I was thinking just
missing or
looking at this, maybe we could just label Cervantes, for example, given the sort of prominence of that road.
Westridge was the same. I had the same thing. Westridge
Yeah.
Trail.
Yeah, maybe we could label Westridge where it intersects with Alpine in a way that's similar to how we've intersected with labeled with the Portola.
It's already busy, so we don't need it busier. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe red
information
line.
dense.
I don't know. Of course, it all depends as these get used. If they work for people, then great.
Yeah.
Did we consider at all labeling the Windy Hill parking lot on the map and perhaps the town center parking lot?
Oh, that's a.
Yeah,
We went through multiple revisions of different noting different landmarks in town, and we've largely removed them. So we had schools, for example, on here, but parking maybe is one we could explore, adding the Windy Hill parking lot and the town center. I think.
Yeah, and leave the Willowbrook lot off of there because I really don't know that that's even an official.
Leave the what off there?
The Willowbrook lot.
Yeah.
Leave that off.
Yep.
And it kind of just makes it clear those are where we expect people to park to use the trails. Howard, do you have any thoughts on that? Parking on, if we label the parking lots on the map, the town center and the Windy Hill parking lots as the official trail parking lots.
I have to think about that one. I think for the use of, I'm just thinking as a regional use, because I'm looking at the map and you point out parking areas, then does it mean that anyone that uses the trails on this region can come park at the town center?
I think that's true. I think this is a public parking, okay, I think that we can fix that. Yeah. Okay, any other feedback on the map? I do want to talk about next steps to release it potentially. Unless there's any other feedback. Go ahead, Howard. Can we turn your microphone on?
There were some things I've marked up. I want to check up with Liz on that I see. So there's a couple of things I want to verify also.
Okay.
And specifically also the Alpine Canyon Trail. I know it's marked here. It comes down right when it gets to the Stanford Wedge. And I know there's some comments from them concerning if there's a trail there or not that we should probably flush out also. I will just need some time to digest also the map concerning and match it up with the one that I marked up with Liz. That's all.
Oh, okay. This is meant to incorporate those comments. This is version 29 that should be incorporating the version that you had marked up. So yeah, fine to follow up with Liz. I do want to recognize that we have been working on this for 2 years at this point, I think, maybe more than that. And I don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. I feel like perfect is getting to be the enemy of good right now. And I would like us to explore releasing this on the town website. Along with, I don't have any issue with keeping the existing map. If there are errors on it, I think we should look at correcting those. But I do think that there's no problem with having more than one map, having the black and white version, having the color version, different options for people I think are good. We're not talking about, physically printing things, so there's no cost that's incurred by doing this. So I want to figure out, and Judith, maybe you can guide us here, is, do we have an option here to could we as a committee take a vote to encourage, releasing this map to the public in a way where we could get feedback? We could at least share this great work that Dave has done. I think that there are always going to be things that we can quibble about and say, well, this should be a little bit better this way. But if we continue to do that, we're never going to get this finished.
Yeah, no, and you guys have clearly done a ton of work, and it's really impressive the way that this is looking right now. So I do want to commend everybody for getting there. So I think you have a couple choices. One is to take these, although I would want to see if Howard has specific things you can check if there's, a time frame, for that. But I spoke with the town attorney and she said that the action you would take is to approve something when you're ready to approve it, and that the town council would just accept it wouldn't have a separate approval by the town council, is my last discussion with her. So regardless, you would need to approve it as the map you're prepared to approve. And then we take it from there. I think, Fred, what you're saying is, like, do you have a second step before approval of allowing public comment? But that's what this is for, right? You've had it in your your packet here. So I don't see a separate need to have even more public comment on it. But to me, it's a question of whether your committee is comfortable with it being accurate enough in the right format to be considered for recommendation to the town council as going on the website. And I don't think the town council is going to have substantive comments on it. I think it just wants to be aware that here's the final approved map. Howard, if you've heard anything different, let me know, but that's where I left off with Catherine.
No, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything on that front. But I think those are the appropriate steps to take. And just once again, I just wanted to take it won't take that much time, just a one final glance at it, just to make sure the revisions I had match with this. And once again, I apologize for the delay. It's just we have a lot of other priorities too.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
I did have one question before you finalize your comments. I assume you're going to have the color and the black and white version, and I heard you saying keep the current one, maybe correcting any glaring mistakes. Because this is me as a trail user more than anything. I might find it helpful to just have the current version as the color coded version. It corrected, of course, and consistent with this work product. Whether you do it now or just add that in as you correct it, I think some people who read maps, who are map reading challenged like myself, may benefit from the very two-dimensional version. But whatever you choose to approve, that's the process I would recommend.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that there's no real cost in having multiple maps. And I think that people, particularly folks who've been in town for a while, I think really value the existing map because one, they're familiar with it. And two, when you know the area, it's useful. I think it's a trail that was likely created by and for people who knew the area. So no issue there. Gary.
So when we first started this process, I believe somewhere in the Trails and Paths element, it talks about how the town may from time to time change the usage of the designation usage of a trail, and they must do so by resolution. Now, I don't know that we're really changing the usage of any trails here. I think we're clarifying. There's a couple of bumps. So I don't know if we need to do a resolution or not. Judith, you maybe, I don't know what the town, if you even talked to the town attorney about that, but I think we're mandated to, if we do change the usage of a trail, that it has to be approved by resolution of town council. And our resolution is not attached to this package, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't, if we take a vote today, all we'd be voting on is the map and not the resolution.
Correct.
So that could be problematic. What I always envisioned, and we don't have to do it this way, was that we would present a clean resolution to the town council for approval that cleaned up all the errors on the previous map and maybe even changed a couple of things if we found we could. And I think what we're really doing is making the map more accurate. For example, the bicycle easement along Alpine between Indian Crossing and Portola. That's always been there. We're just now showing it on the map. So I don't think we need a resolution to change the map. So the question to you, Judith, is do you want to do this without resolution? We were always anticipating we would. If we are going to do it by resolution, then we need Fred to put the map and the resolution together in an agenda for approval. I would feel more comfortable doing it by resolution because I would like the resolution to spell out some of the problems that we have not resolved. So for example, Salsa Trail, we just haven't resolved it. And I want the town council to feel very comfortable that what they're approving is truly what the easements support. That's where we kind of got in trouble last time. Right, the council approved something they had no business approving, and it was because the Trails and Paths Committee made the recommendation to do it. I just want to avoid that. I want to make sure it's very clear to the council what we're asking the council to do. So given that, just let us know if you just want a map, then we'll send you a map. We can do it today. If you want the map and the resolution, then we would have to wait till the next meeting.
So Gary, I've consulted with the town attorney twice and she has never mentioned the need for resolution, but given that she's interim and maybe you can let me know where you think that requirement to do it by resolution resides, because she didn't find it. And it may be a transitional thing and I want to make sure it's done correctly, but since I've asked her twice and gotten the same answer, maybe we're missing something.
So let me suggest this. I am very excited to get this to move forward, but we do have Howard's concerns of just making sure that it maps with his feedback that he had given. So I'm comfortable putting this on the agenda for the next meeting with the resolution. We'll get the resolution issue settled and we will plan to take a vote on moving the map forward. I think the main intention today was to just make sure we got the map in front of the committee. We had a public discussion about it because it had been in our subcommittee for quite some time. So if folks are okay with that, that's what I'll do kind of as our path forward. Okay. I do have to leave in 20 minutes or so. So I do want to make sure that we cover off on all the other items on the agenda. In the packet, we have the plan for the horse fair. We're required to put forth what's called a large event proposal, and Barb, who unfortunately can't be here, and Ellie have created this wonderful proposal, and mainly just wanted to share this with the committee. If there's any feedback that folks have on the proposal, I think we take them today. So I'll open it up for discussion about the horse fair.
I think we just mainly need you to look at it and approve it, and then it goes to the secretary and then to the town council, I guess.
Yeah, I actually don't know that we need a vote on it. I was not informed that we needed a vote. I mainly just wanted to have it for if there's any feedback for additions that people wanted to see. I mean, in my read of it was, I thought the horse fair was great last year. If we do the same thing again, be great. Mostly just wanted to see if there were any thoughts here.
I'll say one thing, it's much more organized than it has been in the past. They've given us a clear list of dates to comply by. Often some of these vendors are little jumped up little people and they never make a decision till.
Excuse me, let me correct myself. We actually do need to approve the proposal to be submitted to the town council. That is page page 2.
Meaning the
excuse me, page
the
3.
budget. The budget.
Page 3. We do need to have Trails and Paths Committee approval this month so that we can submit this to the town council. So if anyone has a motion to approve, we can do that, or folks have questions on the proposal that we need to amend, we can do that too.
Can I make a motion to approve? If no
I
objections?
thought it looked great. I approve.
Can I get a second?
So I think the motion should be that we approve sending this recommendation for a large event proposal to the town council for their approval. We don't approve it, we simply make a recommendation. So may I redo the motion?
Sure.
Yeah, just to be Brown Act compliant. I move that we make a recommendation to the town council for a large event proposal horse fair on May 18th, 2024, as spelled out in the document before us.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Great. Thanks, everyone. And next item is just update on town hike. Are we having it?
Yeah, I am only available the 18th of November,
Okay.
which is the weekend before Thanksgiving break.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe that Saturday, the 18th. There's nothing on the town calendar at the moment, so I can send in a request to say, I don't know. I mean, we can just put the town hike on the calendar and then send a e-blast about meet up for the town hike on the 18th.
Yeah, I mean, that I think sounds good to me. I don't think we need a
It's not a big thing, but if the 18th sounds good to everyone here, whoever's available.
If you are the leader of the town hike, I think you get to say when the town hike
Yeah.
occurs. I think that's one of the privileges. Of
Oh,
being-
perfect.
Is it rain or shine?
I believe it is. We went in the rain a couple years ago and it was fun. It wasn't heavy rain, but it was wet. you know.
Okay, great. Trails memo, the September 2023 Trails memo and budget status. We have here. We've got 30 minutes of work, so not a huge one. Looks like there's a yellow jacket nest near Georgia Lane. And called the county for that. Anything else, Howard, you want to comment here? Looks pretty.
No, traditionally, this is the slower month for trail work. We're starting on culverts, clearing culverts. The crew's checking on culverts right now. We are a little short staffed, so I open to, any volunteer efforts to help us clean water bars next month. I want to just put that word out.
Okay.
And you can help us coordinate. If you any questions, call me or Scott for some help, because we do start that in November, December. Thank you.
Okay, those are all of the items on our agenda. The next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, November 15th here at 9 a.m. It looks like we have a hand up. I think that's Caroline.
Great. Yes, thank you very much. You guys made great progress. Thank you, Gary, for amplifying how the process works. Please, I can remind the committees, this is all laid out in our handbook. Yes, so that's why I asked town council to ask our town manager to be present, because part of the process is that our town manager helps us move this action plan to the town council. Secondly, thank you, Gary, for being cautious with Palmer Trail. There's also an easement from the Priory that connects to Palmer Trail. I'm sorry, Sawful Trail. I apologize, not Palmer Trail. We will need some help from Public Works to make sure,
Okay.
because we
Hey.
use that as a connection.
Carolyn, so we're past our time for items not on the agenda, so I'll just, I think we've covered these items. We're through our agenda. I do want to respect everyone's time. We're now
Okay,
in 45
thank you.
in, to the meeting, so thank you for the comment. We have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 10:45 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought about it.